Hi everyone, it's Dot, and today we're going to be making an awesome dish. We're making a braised cabbage. Now, some of you out there may not like cabbage. For example, my husband is someone who absolutely can't stand the taste of it when it's cooked. However, this dish he absolutely loves, and he would just eat the whole dang thing if I let him, and I don't do that. So we're going to be making some braised cabbage. It's slow cooked, yummy, and very low carb and healthy. I was looking for a different way to cook braised cabbage. How I've done it before is just chop up cabbage very finely, put it on a stovetop with some butter, and just sort of cook it down for about 15-20 minutes. That works and it's good. It tastes nice, but you're mostly tasting the butter flavor because, you know, butter is tasty. But I also like to taste the cabbage too. So I found actually on the Washington Post website, they had a recipe for braised cabbage. I made a few little tweaks to it, not much. But it is absolutely delicious and I just love it. So the ingredients for this recipe are 1 cabbage. You can use green or you can use a purple red cabbage. I'm using red today. I have 1 large carrot all chopped up. I'm using brown mushrooms in this particular recipe, and I'm also using some nice thick sliced onions. And I would say also for the mushrooms, you want them nice and sliced. This is going to cook for 2 hours, so you don't really, a thin cut mushroom is just going to go shrivel up and you won't really have a whole lot there. I'm also using bone broth. I'm using salt and cracked pepper, and at the end we're going to finish it out with some balsamic vinegar for a lovely taste. Now let's get cracking. We're going to prepare the cabbage. Now when I get cabbage from the grocery store, I leave the outer leaves on. As you can see, I've just ripped them off. I use them to protect the cabbage when it's in the refrigerator, so that's what it's there for, because cabbage can stay for actually quite a long time in your fridge. So you just put these aside. You don't need to use them for this recipe. What I'm going to do is, there's one more outer leaf I'm going to take off, and then I'm going to wash this, just the outside of the cabbage, and then we're going to chop it the way you want to chop it. You're not going to be doing a fine chop. You're going to be doing a thick chop, and we'll show you how. Now what you're going to do is you're going to cut off this end, just this cap right here. We're leaving it completely on the core because we're going to be cooking it with the cabbage. We want to have nice thick wedges. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut the stem off. There, that's off. Put that aside, and now we're going to go ahead and cut the cabbage. First thing we're going to do is cut the cabbage roughly in half. And not so quite in half, close enough. I'm going to go ahead and half those pieces. So now we have quarters. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut those quarters in half as well. All right, my cabbage serves 8 and I have 8 pieces here. We're ready to go. Let's get it ready for going into the oven. You want about a 9 by 13 baking dish, and you want it oiled. I've already added some ghee to it, about a tablespoon, and just rubbed it all around. What I'm going to do is just place the pieces of cabbage, the wedges, in the dish. They go in first. And basically you just make room for them. Next thing we're going to add, we're going to put the onions on top. And again, you want the thick slices of onion. Next up, we have carrots. Then we're going to add our mushrooms. You just want to spread everything out. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of kosher salt. I want a really coarse salt for this. I'm adding roughly a tablespoon to it. We're adding some fresh cracked pepper. The next thing, bone broth. We want some liquid in here. We're braising it, so we need that moisture. Now the bone broth isn't the only liquid that's going to go in here. I have another one, and it's a little bit of a secret, but it's so tasty. All right, I melted a 1/4 cup of duck fat, which I'm adding to this. I love adding duck fat to vegetables. You can use ghee, you can use a light olive oil if you want it to. This I had to melt on the stove top, and you would have to do the same with a ghee as well. You can also use coconut oil if you prefer. This is almost ready to go into the oven. We are going to seal this baby up tight. I've already preheated the oven for 325. You want as tight a seal as possible on your casserole dish. Now it's going to go in the oven, and you want to make sure it goes in the oven on the middle rack. All right, it's been about an hour, so I'm going to take this out real quick, shove this, and I'm going to take the tin foil off, but all I'm going to do is use some tongs, and you're going to basically flip the cabbage. Now what you want to try to do, whoops, is keep the cabbage as much as possible intact. If it falls apart, don't worry about it. It's okay, but you just want to try to keep that wedge together. Just like that. The other thing you want to do before I flip all these is you want to check your water level, and my water is a little bit low, so what I'm going to do is take a little measuring cup, and I'm just going to add just a little bit of water to this. Again, you don't want the water to run out. You want the moisture to stay in there. You're braising this, so moisture is really, really important. Okay, I'm going to finish flipping these. I'm going to put the tin foil back on tightly, as tight as I can without burning myself, and it's going to go back in for another hour. All right, it's been 2 hours total. It is piping hot. So what we're going to do right now, this is all cooked, it's all done, but you want to let it sit. You don't want to serve it hot. You want to serve it warm. It can even be eaten cool. So I'm going to let it cool down for a little bit before we do the final touches to it. All right, we are ready to go. It is nice and warm. It's not overly hot, which is great. The last step I'm going to add on is some balsamic vinegar. I'm adding about a tablespoon, and I'm just going to basically sprinkle this over the cabbage. It is that simple to make it that tasty. You don't want to use a whole lot of balsamic vinegar because there's a lot of sugars in it, so you just want to be careful with that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and might as well taste it. I'm going to add a little bit of onion, a couple of pieces, and I have 1 piece of carrot in there. I'm going to add a little bit of carrot, not much, and then mushrooms because I love mushrooms. The last thing we're going to do is use just a little pinch of sea salt on it. And you do this when you're serving it. So now we're ready to actually taste. This is delicious. I love the little slight hint of the balsamic, makes it wonderful. But you have just a lot of really nice flavors. The cabbage is so mellow in how it tastes, and it's very soft, it's very tender. You just want to gobble it up. And it has you sort of bring out the natural juices and just the flavor of the cabbage, but it's not overwhelming. It smells delicious too. That's the thing. So, you know, when you cook cabbage sometimes, especially if you boil it, it can have a little bit of a stink in the house. So this it's yummy. That's all I can say about it. And it's really easy to make. It takes a little bit of time and a little TLC, obviously, but it is so worth it. And I hope you give it a try. It's a great side dish. I have all the information below on how to make it, all the ingredients and quantities with the recipes. Just click on the Show More button below, or words below the video. And with that, I hope you enjoy the video, you like and share with your friends, subscribe as well. And until next time, I'll see ya.